Welcome to the She's Just Not That Into You podcast, where we're redefining female experiences and prioritizing female perspectives. I'm Rianne.
And I'm Jiyun. We are two friends with global background, sharing our multicultural experiences and discussing everything that sparks our passion.
Every week, we have honest, intimate conversations that we hope will inspire and empower not only each other, but women everywhere. Hello and welcome back to the She's Just Not That Into You podcast. I'm your host, Rianne.
And I'm Jiyun.
And today we're going to talk about why women should never invest in a man. So first of all, what do we mean by investing? We mean investing your time, your energy, and your money into a man by doing things such as helping him build his career, helping him buy his house, supporting him financially, moving somewhere to suit his convenience, and everything in between.
And not just that, but also emotional labor as well.
Yeah.
Like, we are always expected to be more giving, more patient, and more willing to give up things emotionally as well for our partners. And we don't even realize that we are doing it because it's always been so normalized.
Yeah, definitely. And this was a topic that I've recently become quite concerned about because I still see so many women nowadays still investing into men, and especially men who they're not even married to or who they don't even have plans to get married to. And I think if you're married, it's a bit different because you've made a contract and theoretically you've agreed to support each other through everything. But if you're just dating, there's no need to do all these things and act like a wife when you're still a girlfriend.
Yeah.
And I think this isn't a good thing to do neither for yourself nor for your relationship with the man if you really want to build a serious future together. Firstly, if you don't want a serious future with this man, why are you investing into him? It's a waste of your time, your energy, and your money, as this investment won't pay off long term because you don't even want the long term future yourself. But on the other hand, if you do see him as a long term partner and you want to build a serious future together with him, then investing in him won't make that happen.
Right.
Because, I feel like a lot of the time, women who want marriage and want to build a family life together with a man, they tend to mistakenly think that investing in a man will make that happen. But that's not actually how it's going to work. And we can get into that later in the episode.
Right.
But basically, we're not saying that women should be using men or that you should be a gold digger or anything like that. But we're just saying that it's not a good idea for women to invest their time and energy and money and years of their life into helping men and supporting men when the investment isn't going to pay off for them long term.
Yeah.
Because, in any investment you make, for example, if you're investing in the stock market or you're investing in your pension, you're always going to be thinking what the long-term returns are that you're getting on your investment, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's always good to think about this.
Yeah. And also personally, I feel like there's a difference between a sacrifice and a choice. And a lot of the times women sacrifice themselves for men thinking that it's for love, when in reality, it's actually just our system telling us to sacrifice ourselves and expecting us to be okay with it. And we need to stop to think about whether it's something that we really want to do or we are actually forced to do it because society expects us to do it. And we'll get onto that later as well.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Do you think it's kind of similar to the whole beauty standards topic as well? Yeah, like plastic surgery.
Yeah. Because I feel like for centuries, women were always expected to find their value in supporting men rather than pursuing their own ambitions. It was always rooted in this patriarchal ideas and norms that limited women's opportunities for education, like careers and leadership and everything. And because of this, I feel like men and women found meaning and purpose in their partner's success as if that's their own achievement. So yeah, I think that somehow still plays into our daily relationships with our partners as well.
Yeah, it's so crazy because I actually read recently that our generation of women is one of the first generations of women ever in existence to be completely financially independent from men. We're the first generation that doesn't have to be financially dependent on a man. But then even so, I feel like the way that people behave and the way that our societal norms are made haven't really kept up with those changes.
Right. So behind.
And it's down to us to change that. right?
Yeah. Yeah, so why is it always the woman who gives up her career, her time, and even her money and energy just to support a man? Let's talk about it.
So, firstly, I just wanted to clarify the ways in which I think that women should never invest in a man. Oh, and obviously, as I said, I'm mostly referring to situations where you're not married yet, because obviously, if you're married, you've agreed to support each other through sickness and health and everything in between. So, obviously, if you're married to a man and he's sick and he can't work and you have to financially support him and your kids, it's a bit different. But we're mostly going to be talking about the situations where you're not married yet and it's just some random man and you shouldn't feel like you need to support him and look after him in that situation.
Right.
But a lot of the time, women do end up taking on that responsibility for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in that situation, I think a woman should never financially support a man, which also includes letting him live in your apartment without paying rent.
It's so crazy. I have never heard about that kind of thing before.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I feel like Korean women are a lot more independent. I don't know.
Another thing is that you should never help a man build his career, which also includes moving somewhere, either moving to a different city or moving to a different country to live with him in a place that suits his career.
Mm-hmm.
Again, obviously, if you're married, it's a bit different because you've agreed to, stay together and live together and everything. But we're just talking about those situations where you've been dating someone and then they're like, oh, I just got this new job in Australia, move there with me. You shouldn't say yes in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess another thing is, for example, if you're in a relationship with a man and he's decided to quit his job to pursue a career as a DJ, you shouldn't be helping.
Oh my god, is that even a real thing? Like, please.
In that situation, you shouldn't be paying his bills and financially supporting him while he gets his career as a DJ off the ground.
Yeah.
Only for him to then
Definitely.
dump you a year later when he finds another girlfriend, right?
Definitely.
And by the way, when I say that you shouldn't help a man build his career, I don't mean that you can't help him proofread his resume to check for spelling mistakes, or that you can't help him in other ways. Like maybe you can even introduce him to a friend of yours who works in the same industry that he's trying to get a job in or something like that. But what I mean is don't help him build his career at the sacrifice of your own career. So you shouldn't move somewhere just for his career. You shouldn't choose a job for yourself to suit his convenience and don't quit a job for him. You should always put yourself first, because if you're just dating someone, then there's no reason for you to rearrange your life around him, right? And also just think about it. Would a man do this for a woman? He probably wouldn't, right?
No, of course not.
Another thing is that you should never help a man buy his house.
Oh my god, yeah.
You shouldn't go 50-50 on splitting a mortgage with a man if you're not sure if you're going to stay together long term. Because, what if he gets to keep the house and you don't, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You shouldn't contribute finances to help a man pay his mortgage unless you're planning to get married one day. What I mean by this is that, for example, if he's bought a house and he's paying a mortgage on it, then you shouldn't be paying half of his monthly mortgage payment for him, even if you're living together with him. Because if you don't end up staying together long term, what that means is that he'll have had someone helping him pay for his house, which he then gets to keep as an asset forever. Meanwhile, all your money will have been contributed to helping him gain this asset, which you won't be able to keep for yourself, because if you break up and you're not married, then that's his house, right? And in this way, you'll have invested all your money into helping him build his financial future, which might as well be money that's gone down the drain for you if you don't stay together afterwards.
Right, yeah.
Also, never invest time into waiting for him to be ready to progress the relationship to the next step that you want it to be at, because those are years of your life that you could have spent doing something else that's more productive for you long term. And I think another way you should never invest in a man is buying a dog together, because buying a dog together is like investing in a financial liability that's going to keep draining you. I mean, I know it's not very nice to think of like a cuddly pet in that way, but actually buying a dog is a really big responsibility because it's just so expensive to look after a dog. And, you'll have years and years of potential medical bills and dog food and everything else that you need to buy. And I think June and I were talking about this before, but it is almost like the equivalent of having a kid together.
Yeah.
And, like a lot of people just jump into buying a dog together with someone who they've just been dating for a relatively short amount of time without really knowing how likely it is that they're going to have a serious future together with that person, right? And, making this kind of purchase is kind of equivalent to investing in this person because you're putting yourself in a position where you're reliant on staying together with that person because you have this dog that you need to look after, which is something that you should definitely think about. And obviously a dog is a really big investment, but even if it's just buying a goldfish together, that's also a financial liability as well because you'll need to pay for fish food forever. And, you don't want to get in the situation where you buy a pet together with someone and then you end up breaking up and then you're the one who's stuck looking after the dog forever, right?
Yeah.
Which is like a really big financial drain for you. And as long as you're like fully prepared to take on that responsibility, if that were to happen, I don't think it's the right decision for you to make at that time.
Yeah, so true.
And I think also you shouldn't move in together with a man that you're dating and not yet engaged to or planning to get engaged to and then split rent with him 50-50. Because this actually also does count as you investing money into him because firstly, moving house is really expensive because you have to pay for a removal service, and a lot of the time when you move house, you have to invest in new furniture and new items for your new house. And regardless of whether you're married or not, a lot of the time women do a lot more unpaid labor when living together with a man. So those hours that you spent doing unpaid labor for him, like cooking and cleaning and looking after his dog, for example, that's all time that you could have spent doing other stuff that's going to be more productive for you long term. So I don't think you should be doing that with someone if you're not completely sure that they're serious about building a future together with you.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like the whole point behind this is that a lot of women still believe that if they just support a man enough, he will commit to them. Like, if I help him build his career, if I take care of him, he will realize how much he needs me and he will marry me or something like that. So many women still fall into that kind of trap, believing that if they help him to be successful or something, he will somehow reward them with, I don't know, marriage or something. But that's not how it works. Just because you help them doesn't mean that he's obligated to marry you or something. A lot of men get all kinds of support from a woman, and then once they're successful, a lot of the time they just move on to someone else. That happens so many times.
Yeah, because you'll have been the person who helped him build his career, and then, now he's got this amazing new job and he's increased his status massively.
Yeah.
So then now he can go and find someone better than you, right? Yeah, if you just think about it, even if in this situation where you're helping your boyfriend start up his career as a DJ by financially supporting him, then, even if things do go amazingly well and he does end up somehow becoming a world-class DJ, if he is the kind of person who was happy to use you for financial support while he achieves his dream, he probably won't want to stay with you, the girl next door who helped him build his career. He'll probably then think, oh, now that I'm a world-class DJ, I can leave her for a supermodel.
Exactly. Yeah. He suddenly thinks that he can do better, and yeah, he just leaves you. And society totally like normalizes all this. Like, I always hear this phrase, behind every great man is a woman.
Oh, I thought it was behind every great man is a great woman.
No, it's just a woman.
Oh, okay. She doesn't even have to be great.
Yeah, she doesn't even have to be great. But I really don't like this phrase. Like, why should a woman's role be behind a successful, great man? Why can't she be just successful for herself, It just reinforces the idea that a woman's value comes from how well she supports a man instead of just from her own success. And it's such a prevalent idea that a lot of women just unconsciously support.
Yeah, and I think the problem is that there seems to be a big kind of misalignment in terms of the different values that men and women respectively hold, because I feel like women almost always don't move in together with a man or invest their money, their time and energy into a man unless she she thinks he's going to be her future husband.
Mm-hmm.
But men don't necessarily move in together with a woman because he sees her as his future wife.
Mm-hmm.
He could just be doing it because he thinks it's convenient for him to be with her and have her cook for him and stuff.
Have sex.
Yeah. And then, when living together, women almost always end up doing more for the man than he does for her in terms of housework and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, so then because of that, for a woman, it's actually quite a big commitment to live together with a man. And for that reason, women don't tend to decide randomly to just invest their time and energy into living together with a man just for the sake of living with them and having a good time together.
Yeah.
Which is probably what the man thinks he's doing, right?
Right.
And then the unfortunate thing is that men don't agree to marry someone just because they're so grateful about the amount of time and energy and money that the woman has invested in them.
Right.
I think it's more women who respond in that way when they feel grateful to someone for their time and their energy. They feel like they can trust them and they want to be loyal and stay together with them. But I've read and heard and also heard from conversations with male friends and everything that men value things that they've invested into rather than valuing people that have invested in them. So I would say if you're a woman and you're dating a man and you want him to be serious about a long-term future with you, it's actually probably a good thing for a man you're dating to help you with all the things I said above that you shouldn't do, such as financially supporting a man and helping him build his career and everything. Because men really value the things that they invest into. So the more time and energy and money that he invests in you, the more likely he's going to treasure you long-term. And he won't want to walk away from that because all he'll be thinking is, how can I get her to commit to me and make the most of all the money that I've invested in her, right?
Right.
Because I was even at the weekend talking to one of my male friends and he was talking about dating and he was saying that he values the women he goes on dates with after meeting them in real life way more than he values the women that he goes on dates with after meeting them through online dating apps. Because he said when you've met a woman in real life, you've had to invest more time and energy into meeting them, talking to them and getting them on a date, getting them into a situation where you're one-on-one.
Yeah.
Whereas when you meet someone through an online dating app, you're already on a date one-on-one right away, so you don't value it as much because it's been easier to get. Ironically, I don't think it's even just men who value things that they invest in, but it's probably also women as well. So as a woman, if you've invested all of this in a man, then you won't be able to walk away from the relationship if he starts treating you badly.
Yeah.
Or if he starts doing things that violate your boundaries, such as talking to other girls or flirting with women online or whatever other things that men do when they get complacent in a relationship. Because by then you'll have invested so much in that man that you won't be able to walk away.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So the trick to getting the long-term commitment that you want, if that is what you want from this man, is that you need to make the man so invested in you that he doesn't want to walk away from you.
Yeah.
And a man won't get complacent and do all these things like flirting with other women and all that, which, by the way, men always know that it's not the right thing to do. Even if he says that he had no idea it would upset you, he knows how you should be treated. But he won't do all those things if he's desperate to get you to commit to him because he's already invested however much amount of money paying your rent for you or whatever. Then he's going to be like, oh shit, how can I get her to commit to me long term? I've already invested all my money into her.
Yeah. Oh my God. It sounds like economics class 101. Like the more you invest in something, the more you start thinking about sunk cost, you know?
Yeah. So yeah, just don't let yourself be used as a placeholder for a man to conveniently live together with. I also wanted to caution women out there against auditioning for a man who wants to see whether you're compatible or not by living together first to test it out. Because, I've heard that a lot of men will tell a woman that they're not sure if they want to get married or if they're not sure if they want to stay together long term. So they want to test it out first by living together and seeing if they're compatible or not. And then the woman will agree to live together, and then after a couple of years the man will say, oh, actually I didn't really think we work long term, so I think we should break up or whatever. Don't let yourself be trialed out by a man who's not sure if he wants to stay together with you long term or not. Like, he shouldn't have to take you on a test drive to make up his mind. Like, you're not a car, right?
Right.
It's also going to be bad for your self-esteem too if you keep investing your time and energy into men who then decide after having tried you out for a few years that they don't actually want to marry you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not seriously committed to building a future with him, then why would you move in with him and invest money in him anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also, I think another thing is that a lot of people get caught in this trap of thinking that it's okay if a man isn't sure whether they want to stay together with them long term or not. And so because of that, they want to first try it out by living together and seeing if that's okay. But statistically, people who live together before they get married have a much higher chance of getting divorced afterwards,
Mm-hmm.
because there are certain things that you won't know about that person until you do get married. For example, like just living together and sharing an apartment and splitting the bills is really different to actually getting married and sharing finances together and dealing with each other's families and also looking after kids together, everything like that. So don't fall for the trap when a man says to you, come live together with me and we can do a trial run to see if we're going to be compatible long term, and then I'll decide if I'm sure about whether I want to marry you or not.
Yeah, this is stupid.
And the other thing is that as a woman, if you do too much for a man, he'll actually start to see you as a mother. And the problem is that nobody wants to sleep with their mum, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the kind of situation where he'll start acting like a rebellious teenager and he'll start wanting to go out and see other girls or whatever.
But I think this is something that's easier said than done, because I feel like a lot of the time, a lot of people still struggle with this question of how do you know if you're giving or investing because you truly want to, or if you're just actually sacrificing yourself in a way that's unhealthy. Because I feel like if you talk about this as transactional, it's not love, right? Because love shouldn't be transactional. Like, it cannot be split into 50-50. But what we've just said, I think, could sound like it's transactional, but I think there's a difference. You should be able to tell the difference between choosing to do something because you want to and losing yourself in the process. Like, for example, I think it's important to ask some questions like, do I feel happy giving to this person, or do I feel exhausted or drained? Am I doing this because I want to or because I feel like I have to? Or if I stopped doing this, would this person still love and appreciate me, or do I feel like I have to keep giving to earn their love? If what you're doing for someone or for your partner makes you feel good, supported, and valued, then it's a good choice, I think. But if it makes you like feel tired or like you're giving up pieces of yourself, then it's probably more of a sacrifice than a choice, maybe a bad investment. So if you find yourself saying yes to the negative side of those questions, maybe I think it's time to reevaluate your relationship or reset the whole balance with your partner. A few days ago, I actually saw this video of Anne Hathaway talking about her marriage on this TV show, and she actually really beautifully summarizes her marriage, and I think this applies to this episode. And on that TV show, she says she doesn't expect him to complete her, and she doesn't think he expects her to complete him. So he's his own person, she's her own person, and they choose to be together because they believe that they make each other better, and their union is something they both want to participate in, and individually they are whole, but together they are better. And I think this should apply to every relationship, even when you're dating, not just marriage. So if you are thinking that you are the only one giving more to the other person, then it's probably not a good idea. It should be something about growing together, not just investing in your partner solely from your end. Just stop to think if your partner is doing the same thing for you. And I don't think it's still about transactional, but it's about who's in the best place to give support at the time. So instead of focusing on who's doing more or who's investing more or something like that, just think about who's in the best place at the time to give the best support. Because some days your partner needs more from you, other days you'll need more from your partner. I think that's totally fine, because as long as it's not always one-sided. But if you're always the one giving support and never receiving it, that's not the right balance.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that advice. I think this is really something that we need to talk about seriously, because as women, we need to really be careful to not get ourselves into this kind of situation.
Mm-hmm.
It's so crazy because actually a lot of the time women are the ones to offer to invest in a man. A lot of the time the woman is the one to suggest living together first, or the woman is the one who offers to financially support her boyfriend when he's starting his new career as a DJ.
Oh my God.
Whatever. But I think think, as we said already, a lot of the time it's because women feel that they're making an investment into their future because they think that if they do these things for a man, then it will make him want to marry her and commit to her long term. But actually, that's quite manipulative. So if you do want a man you're dating to commit to a future together with you long term, if he's not the one who's bringing up marriage first, but you're kind of in a situation where you're confused about what he's planning to do with your relationship in the future, you could just have a simple, direct conversation with him about it. You can say, I just want to make sure that we're on the same page about where this relationship is going, and I'm looking to build a future together with someone who's interested in building a partnership with me, and I'm looking to have kids together one day, or whatever it is that you're looking for. And in this situation, you don't even have to say, I'm interested in building a partnership with you and having kids with you. You can just say you're looking to do that with someone. It doesn't necessarily have to be him, because if that is something that you really want, you should be the one to decide what you want to do for your life rather than letting him decide for you. And you also can't be the one to decide whether you do these things with him or not, because what he decides that he wants to do with his life is none of your business. All you're doing in this situation is telling him what your needs are and what you want to do with your life, right?
Right.
I think it really makes sense to talk and communicate about these things openly, because you would never want to enter into a business partnership with someone unless you're both on the same page about where you both want the business partnership to go in future, right? And I think marriage is actually quite similar because, you know, until quite recently, marriage was actually seen as a business arrangement between two people, and romantic love wasn't even something that was considered. Anyway, so then after you have that kind of talk with him, if he says he's not ready to commit to taking the relationship to the next step, which might be marriage if that's what you want, if he's not ready to do that, then that's fine. You know, because marriage is a big responsibility and not all men are going to be ready for it at every point in their lives. And that's fine. And if he's not ready for marriage, you don't have to be the one to change him because he's not yours and he doesn't belong to you. So you can't be the one to force him to marry you.
Right.
And I think by the time you get to the point of having that conversation with him, he probably knows whether he wants to marry you or not. And if he has decided that he wants to marry you, then he'll be grateful that you brought up that conversation, because then you'll be able to work out that you're both on the same page. If he gets scared by that conversation, then he probably wasn't ready to marry you anyway. So you've just stopped yourself from having to waste more time on him. But in that situation, you shouldn't be investing your time and energy into him, hoping that the more you invest in him, the more he's going to be ready for marriage, because that's probably not going to happen, right?
Right.
Yeah, but this kind of cycle will keep perpetuating itself unless we as women realize what's happening and we change our behavior.
Yeah.
You know, we have the power to change how this kind of thing works out, right? Because without us women investing into men, they're not going to have anyone investing in them, right? So then they'll have to start investing in women.
Yeah. Women should really have some good standards.
Why all these men keep thinking that they can use women for their convenience is that there are women who are willing to invest themselves. It's the same as, you know, how we always complain about the men who become fuckboys, but then these men all became fuckboys because they met woman after woman who was willing to tolerate that behavior, right?
Exactly.
Which kind of ties into the conversation of how you shouldn't do girlfriend duties on a friends with benefit salary, thinking that it will make a man commit to wanting to make you his girlfriend.
Yeah, definitely.
Because, you know, like we've already discussed previously on this podcast about how we don't agree with friends with benefits, but I feel like if you're a friend with benefits, then you're basically an unpaid prostitute. And men shouldn't be expecting anyone to do girlfriend duties for them if they're treating them like an unpaid prostitute, right? But the women who keep tolerating that behavior and who keep giving more than they're receiving are the ones who make the men like that think that they can keep asking more women to do more for them, right?
Yeah, so crazy.
Basically, yeah, when it comes to the whole don't invest in a man in exchange for potential commitment, I just think it's probably good to just not invest too much of your time, energy, and money into building a future together with someone who hasn't shown you that they're really serious about building a future together with you.
Yeah.
And, you know, if a man shows you that he's not really serious about that with you, then you shouldn't be serious about it either, which means that it's time to take your investments out of the stock market at that point. Get out while you can. But yeah, I think we should at this point talk about how a woman can know if a man is really serious about them. What's your advice for women women out there who might be in a situation where they actually are not sure if the man they're dating is serious about a future with them or not. How can you tell?
Okay, it's a really easy question. So if you are dubious about his intention and his love, he's not the right person. If he's really interested and if he really loves you, he will never ever make you question his love. Like if you are like asking your friends if he's really into you or if he's really interested in you, then he's not doing it right. Seriously, it's always that. If someone truly loves you, you will never ever question it because it's so clear. If someone's so into you, if someone's so in love with you, that will just show. Like it just shows, his face will show. Like it's so obvious that he's in love with you. If not, then that's not the right relationship, I think. I mean, if it's just a hookup, if it's just a one summer fling or something, then it's fine. Like you can just enjoy it. But
you wouldn't be investing money into a one summer fling anyway, right?
right, exactly. Yeah. Definitely. But if you are investing something for that kind of man, then it's a serious problem. You should reevaluate that relationship.
Yeah, so I think as a rule of thumb, the woman should never be the one to suggest moving in together or just suggest anything that's going to progress the relationship forward in any way.
Mhm.
Because I think the man needs to be the one who's in charge of progressing the relationship, because it's through that you can see how much he's actually interested in building a meaningful future together with you.
Mhm.
And the man who is really interested in doing that with you will be the one who's initiating all those conversations with you.
Right.
You know, it comes up in all the statistics time and time again that heterosexual men get way more out of a marriage and being in a relationship with a woman than the other way around. There's all these statistics about how single women live longer, healthier lives than married women, but the opposite is true for men.
Yeah.
Married men are healthier and live longer than single men because men just get a lot more out of marriage than women do.
Of course.
So as a heterosexual woman, it should be the man who's chasing you for the commitment and asking you to move in together with him and asking you to marry him and everything like that. And he should be investing his time and energy and money into getting you to do those things.
Right.
And you shouldn't have to invest anything into it yourself.
Mhm.
The woman should never be doing anything to try to get the man to commit to her. It should be the man who's trying everything to get the woman to commit to him, because you're going to be a big asset in his life, right?
Yeah.
You know, like how we were saying earlier, behind every great man is a woman.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to even be a great woman. It can just be any woman.
Yeah.
You're already an asset just by being a woman.
Yeah.
He should be the one who's chasing you down and trying to get you to commit to him,
Mhm.
not the other way around.
Yeah. So true.
And, you know, I was even talking to my mum about this, and she was saying if the guy you're dating isn't doing stuff with his actions and his words to show you that he's seriously invested in building a future together with you, then that means that you're just sex friends.
Yeah.
She was like, why would a guy date someone who he's not making meaningful steps to build a future together with? That probably means he's just using her for sex, right?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, along these lines, I think don't be the one to offer to invest in a man in any way, including you should never offer to financially support him or lend him money. And if he asks you to financially support him or lend him money or whatever, well, firstly, I think you should tell him that you don't want to do that because you don't want to invest your money into someone you're not sure is going to be together with you long term.
Mhm.
Because, you know, unless he's proposed to you and unless you're engaged, you have no commitment that he's going to be together with you long term, right?
Right.
And then in that situation, if he dumps you because you said that, then it's probably good that you got out of that relationship sooner rather than later, because that probably would have happened at some point anyway, even if you had lent him that money.
Mhm.
But, you know, like if you are in a relationship with a guy and he's really struggling financially and he's having a really difficult time, then you can lend him money if you really want to. But I think you should think of it as giving away money to a charity, just purely from the goodness of your heart, rather than lending him money because you want his commitment in return, right?
Yeah.
And I think it gets very dangerous when you're in a situation where a man is financially dependent on you, because at this point, you've kind of put yourself in a position of offering certain benefits to him, which means that you won't really know if he's truly interested in on you because there is a chance that he could be staying together with you because of the financial benefits.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's even this Japanese expression that says the end of the money is the end of the connection. So it basically means that like the connection only goes so far as the money goes, right?
Yeah.
So getting yourself into a situation where a man is financially dependent on you is just very risky because you won't really know if he's staying with you because he truly loves you or because he's there for the money. And I think also you shouldn't move in together with a man unless you're either engaged or he's seriously talking about getting engaged or getting married. I mean, obviously, it's not a guarantee that you will get married, even if he's talking about it, since so much can happen that's outside of your control, like people suddenly fall out of love or family issues come up and everything like that. But so many women move in together with a man who isn't even talking about getting married, who isn't even thinking about getting married, or even who is directly saying that they don't know if they want to get married.
Yeah.
Or even that they don't want to get married.
Yeah, so true.
And in that situation, if you agree to live with him, it kind of shows him that you approve of him and how he's behaving right now, which means that he has no incentive to get his act together and consider how he's going to move forward and build a future together with you and do all these things to get you to commit to him, because it means that he has nothing that he needs to reach for, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, if you do find yourself in a situation like this with a man who you think is a good man, but you're not sure whether he's committed to you long term and he's asking you to move in together with him, you can just say to him that moving in together is a really big energy and time commitment for you. And you want to make sure you'll be investing this time and energy in the right way. And you only want to do that with someone who you're sure is committed to building a future together with you long term. Because, you know, even just moving house and moving boxes around and packing everything up is such a big time and energy commitment. And it's also quite expensive to move house as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want to keep doing that every year with a different man who's not sure about you, right?
Yeah.
And if you get scared when you say that, he probably wasn't going to be the right man for you anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, if a man isn't sure about you, investing your time, money, and energy into him basically means that you're taking a big risk. And if you do want to take a risk and invest in something risky, there are so many better things for women to invest our money, time, and energy into, right?
Yeah.
You can invest in the stock market or invest in crypto or invest in online courses or invest in your career or your education or invest in starting a business or invest in a personal trainer or invest in skincare, invest in a therapist or invest in buying yourself good quality clothes and jewelry that you can use for many years, or even invest in designer handbags or buy a car or invest in travel or invest in going to nice restaurants or going on trips to visit friends. There's just so many things you can invest in. And there are no men out there, no matter what their status or their looks, who are worth investing your money into. And ironically, the only ones who are worth investing into are the ones who probably won't make you invest in them anyway.
Right.
Basically, just don't invest in a relationship with a man unless you're completely sure you're happy with where the relationship is right now. Don't invest in something because of the possible potential of what it could be. You know, if you do that in the stock market, for example, it's considered a risky investment. And this time in this situation, the reward is probably not even high enough to be worth a high risk. But so many women are so willing to gamble so much when it comes to a relationship with a man. And it's just so not worth it. And I know all these things might sound so calculated and transactional, and we're definitely not trying to say that women should be gold diggers or something, but I think as women we really need to be smart about our finances, because obviously, as we've discussed in other podcast episodes, we have pink tax to pay, and there's also the gender pay gap, and there's the glass ceiling, and you know, most people who live below the poverty line are women, because women are more likely to fall into poverty than men are, because there's just so many systematic things keeping us poor. And we shouldn't be making ourselves more poor by making dodgy investments into men who aren't going to be worth it long term.
Okay.
And by the way, I'm also not saying that women need to become financially dependent on men or anything like that. I actually think it's important to stay financially independent as well, because if you're financially dependent on a man and he's paying for everything for you, that actually means that you've invested your financial well-being into him, right?
Yeah.
Which is also not a good place to be. So I'm advocating for women to be financially independent and make their own money, but to not invest any of that money into a man. Anyway, so if there are any women out there who've listened to us so far and they think, oh shit, I'm already in this situation now. I've spent the last 3 years financially supporting my boyfriend while he starts his career as a DJ, and I've also been cooking for him and looking after his dog. And on top of all that, he said he's not sure whether he wants to get married or not.
Yeah.
So my advice to this kind of woman would be, congratulations, you've realized you've made a dodgy investment. So now it's time to take your money and run, and don't waste a single minute more. But June, do you have any advice to the women out there who found themselves in this type of situation and they're now thinking, how can I get out of it, or what do I do?
I honestly don't know. But I think it will get easier if you truly understand why you've done it. And again, I think it goes back to the same thing that I've been talking about in this episode. Like, is it the society that tells you to do it, or is it just you really wanting to do it? And I feel like you should really be stopping to think about whether you are seeing marriage as an ultimate goal in your life. Because relationship and love, they should add to your life, not become the reason for it. Like, instead of asking, will he just marry me if I do this or do that? Just ask yourself, is this relationship making me a better version of myself, or is this actually adding to my own life? And if you really stop to think about it and have the right answers to the question, I think you'll be able to figure out what you want to do next in the right way. But most of the time, we don't really take time to think about this kind of question, right? We are so caught up in the situations that we are facing right now, or we are like really blindsided by, I don't know, all the mansplaining or like the toxic fuckboys or whatever. But yeah, if you actually take time to think about all this, you will be able to know what you want to do next.
Yeah, I would say for anyone listening who finds himself in this kind of situation, I think it's really important to look into yourself and work out why you ended up in this situation. Like, why do you feel like you need to invest in people just to have their company?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you so afraid of being single?
Right.
You can even listen to our earlier podcast episode about the pros of being single as women, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's better to be single than to lose yourself in a relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so true.
And I think also you shouldn't rely on a man to give you a sense of purpose in your life, because only you can give that to yourself. We actually talked about this in our recent episode about 10 life lessons we learned in our 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, our other episode, which we did with the tattooist Shannon Reed, she was talking about how, you know, a lot of women give away pieces of themselves to other people. And I think this really is relevant here, because you shouldn't be giving away pieces of yourself to a man hoping that it will give your life meaning when he finally agrees to marry you or something like that, right?
Yeah.
If you're in that situation, even if the man does say that he wants to get married, chances are that it probably isn't going to solve all your problems or make your life happier anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of what all the fairy tales told us about they got married and lived happily ever after.
Yeah. So true. And maybe it's a good idea to surround yourself with examples of women who pursued their goals without sacrificing their happiness for a relationship, or with examples of women who don't invest in a man but still maintain a nice relationship.
Yeah, I think it also goes the other way as well. And, you know, everyone says that you're the sum of the 5 people you spend most of your time with. So if you have a lot of women around you who are in these types of relationships, it's probably better to keep your distance from them, because you're going to end up becoming like them one day, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. More and more women should realize that not investing in a man and having a healthy and nice relationship, they are not mutually exclusive. You can still have a nice and loving and caring, good relationship even without investing and giving away pieces of yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to today's episode. This was really a passion project of mine. So thank you also to June for letting me do this episode.
I feel like you've been running for like the entire hour or something. It's just been like a sprint. Thank you so much for listening to our latest episode. And if you like that, please share with a friend.
We'd also really appreciate if you could rate and review our podcast. And please get in touch if you have any feedback.
We'll be back again with another episode next week.